Hey folks, my name is Ankush and I love to draw box traditionally and digitally. So today I'm gonna use the Strathmore artist styles. They are small papers and they are available in two colors, tan and gray. We'll be using gray today, so let's get started. So as a first step, I'm drawing some basic shapes, raw shapes with the red pencil, just laying out some initial details about the character. This character is going to be inspired by a medieval hero who's gonna have like an armor, and I'm also thinking to have a sword in the back. Initially, I'm trying to get its anatomy correct, making sure the head, shoulders, chest are all aligned properly. At this step, just make it very loose, keep it very loose and simple. Once I'm happy with this red outline, I'm defining some further details with the actual pencil. The pencil I'm using here is a Staedtler lead holder, and the lead I'm using here is a 2mm lead with a hardness of 2H. 2H is good for doing some initial outlines, so it will leave no marks, no impression, and is usually a little bit hard. At the end, I'm also gonna include a tip and a freebie, so make sure you watch it till the end for a free content. I found that drawing hands for some artists or beginners are challenging, so I'm gonna also do like a video on how to draw hands and feet and different shapes of heads. That's gonna be an upcoming video, so stay tuned for that. Right now I'm just defining how the position of the hands are gonna be because they are very important. Defining the outline on the shoulder here, making sure all the muscles are defined, giving it some more outline here. Next, I thought of just adding some background in for this character, just going with the name here, defining a name. Since it's inspired by like a Roman mythology, just went for the font Caden for defining that. The sword here is more of like an Asian warrior, so we'll see how it turns out at the end, really keeping it very loose. Now all the pencils have been defined. I'm adding some extra bit of details and getting rid of all the red lines underneath. Here I'm using a Kneaded Eraser. It's a eraser which leaves no streaks. Okay, so the next step is inking, and for the inking I'm using the Copic Micron 0.2 marker. I find that this marker has a very sharp lines, and going with the 0.2 you can really use it for the details on the head, like the eyes, nose and the lips, and really thin lines you can get with the O2 marker here. Later on the video you will see I'll switch to a thicker marker which is an 05, and eventually use another thicker marker as I proceed. So whenever you're doing an inking, try to make a contrast of the line. With contrast, what I mean is try to make the lines thin and thick. Use the thick lines where the shadows are gonna fall. For example, underneath the shoulder area, underneath this abdominal area. I'm hitting up the points where the shadow is gonna fall and thinking about the line weight here. The line weight is basically conveying where the shadows are gonna be. So keep that in mind, where the light source is coming from. In my case, I'm keeping the light source to be coming up from the top left, so anything on the bottom right side is going to be a thicker line. And again, defining the structure of the hands here, keeping it very basic, very simple, keeping the anatomy simple, and playing with the line weights here, where the shadows are gonna coming from and where the highlights are gonna be. Defining the underneath of the hand. Thought of just moving up to his belt area, thinking of just adding some shiny logo or something that flows, and then I'm adding some like clothes texture, flowing clothes, and defining some patterns of the clothes here. So adding up some details in the sword here, making it with the light and dark shadows, making the thick and thin lines, and then adding some flowing cloth. I thought maybe it will look cool here, so add that cloth here, some more details. Now here I'm switching to a much thicker marker, which is Copic Micron 05. This marker has a thicker lead than the previous one, so really this is helpful for defining more thick lines, pretending like it's gonna add the shadows and adding the line weights. For the text font, I'm using a Tombow. It's a Japanese inking tool. It's a pen that has a different variation of thickness in the nibs. I'll leave all the details about the tools that I'm using here in the description, so make sure you can check out the description and also in the pinned comment. This tool is also very helpful in adding more thick lines, which is much thicker than the Copic Multiliner 05. After inking, just getting ready for the coloring process here, and again getting rid of all the pencil work underneath. For coloring, I'm gonna use Copic Markers, and starting with the skin tone here first. The very first base layer I'm going to put for his skin tone is using the E00. This is really helpful in setting up the base skin tone. It's also important to know where the lights is gonna come on the character here. In this case, as you can see, the light is gonna coming from the top left corner, so any area which is on the top left is gonna be highlighted very light, and anything opposite is gonna be dark. After the first layer is done, I'm switching it to the next color, which is E11, and E11 kind of adds some more tones to his skin color, again keeping the same area of the lights and shadows. Next we have the E13, which is adding more depth to the skin tone here, getting up the shadows, defining where the light is gonna hit, which areas are not gonna be underneath the light, so adding more shadows and adding more 3D depth layer to the character. Next we have this E34 color. This is adding all the details in the head, in the shoulder, in the neck, on the hand, with some more darker tone to the skin tone. This darker tone really establishes what the character's skin color is gonna look like. For the armor, I'm switching it to the Prismacolor. Prismacolor markers are also very good and affordable markers. For the chest armor, I'm going with the tan color, really trying to give it a beige look. We're gonna add some more highlights and shadows. Now adding up with a darker color in the Prismacolor, same color set, adding up the shadows, trying to keep in mind where the highlights are, where the shadows are gonna come, and where the light is falling on this character. For the belt and the gloves, I'm going with the darker brown scheme here, trying to make it give it a look of a leather look, a worn down leather. So we're gonna keep the tone of browns both for the belt, on the waist, on the shoulder, and on the hands, kind of wearing a gloves, which is also in the same leather tone. So using the brown here, coming up with another darker tone of brown, adding more depth. For the middle element of the belt, making it a gold theme, so going with the yellow color scheme, a lighter and a darker yellow for the shadows. We're gonna add more highlights. For the cloth underneath, let's do red. Thinking of adding some flowing red color. We'll use it the same red color for the sword as well, the cloth flowing in here, so coming up with a beige red, adding up some more darker red colors. For the highlights, I'm thinking to add some orange color, give it a contrast, and once I'm happy with that, let's move on to the next step. So here I'm switching back to the Copic markers. For the initial sword color, I'm gonna make it look like a steel, so starting with the W3 here with the base tone. To add more shadows, I just added another tone of W4. Now using the same color scheme for the chest plate to add the shadows and highlights. I'm thinking of adding some more shadows with the same W3 color on the chest and the shoulder and the abdominal area. This kind of gives an effect of having an extra shadow, adding a 3D kind of a defined look on this character. Okay, next step is adding highlights. Highlights, I'm using a Prismacolor pencil here. This pencil is really good to add highlights. You can use it for any area which is shining, directly exposed to the light. So I'm only picking up few area hairs in there on the cheeks, on the hand, on the abdominal area, on the hair, kind of just giving it a highlights and then rubbing off with my finger to blend that in. Let's quickly add some more background to this character. I think having a background gives a depth to the character. The simple plain background looks kind of dull, and it really enhances the character pop-up off the screen. So here I'm adding some random patterns. I'm using a Prismacolor marker here to define some areas around the character. Okay, so we are almost done here. One final step is to add some highlights and a white border. It's a personal choice, you can leave it up till here as well, but you can also add one extra step here, which is to add some highlights. I'm adding just a plain white background around the character, kind of really separating it out of the background. For here, I'm using a white plain gel pen marker. There are other options available. I'll list down which marker I'm using here, and then you can add, and after adding this you will see and notice the difference between what it looks like with this outline. It really pops up the character and really adds a touch to the character. Now add some highlights to the character name here, which is Caden. I just randomly named it. Last but not the least, sign your artwork. That's important, guys. I know I talked about the freebie in the beginning of the video. So the freebie is you can actually download the pencil version of this character down in the description. You can click on the link and download the pencil version. After downloading, you can practice doing inking and coloring the same way I did. So here is the final character. Hope you like it. If you like it, please feel free to share, subscribe, and like this video. Thank you. See you soon.